I'm Chris Yandak. Today on CYInterview, we welcome one of Las Vegas's great from the entertainment scene. Doug Lefty Leferovich is here with us. Late Night Magic is the new show, a master magician, the Orleans Hotel and Casino, 10 p.m. Monday, Thursday, and Saturday nights. He also has a show, of course, Sunday through Wednesday at the Tropicana Hotel and Casino with Murray the Magician. Doug, thanks so much for joining us again on CYInterview. How are you, sir?
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, we always enjoy having you, Lefty. And also joining us today is CYInterview sponsor, the founder of Epic Financial Strategies, LLC, Mr. Rob Gill. Rob, how are you today, sir?
Awesome. Thank you for the invite, Chris. And I'm looking forward to spending some time with Dougie Fresh.
Yes, I love that. That was my nickname in high school, so I'm good with it. I am good with it.
So, Lefty, let's just begin by talking about Late Night Magic, your new show. I think one of Las Vegas's hot new shows at the Orleans Hotel and Casino at the venue. Again, Monday, Thursday, and Saturday night at 10 p.m. How did you get this group of talented people together? There's illusions, there's magic, there's things that you just won't believe when you see them in front of your eyes. How did they do that? How did you get this group together for this original concept, I believe?
I think the plan was to look around in Vegas and see what was already here and try to find things that were different. It helps that all the acts are friends, but it's really about trying to provide a service and a show that's different where you can't see it anywhere else. Like John Shaw, who's the freak show master, does things where he takes a drill and puts it in his nose. He has a metal bucket filled with water that has chains with fish hooks, and he puts the fish hooks in his eyes and lifts the bucket off the ground. That's something you can't see anywhere else. Bizarro, one of Bizarro's claims to fame is that all the magic he creates, he performs. So you can't see his magic anywhere else because he actually makes the props. So we have a couple things in the show, like my card manipulation act, where I think it's important to have a couple of elements that people can relate to. They go, oh, cards, magic. But we try to be as original as possible. We also tried to find acts who maybe didn't have an hour worth of material, where sometimes you go see one magician and maybe their strength isn't comedy or their strength is an illusion, but they do everything in the show because they have to fill an hour and 15 minutes. In our show, the great thing is that each act can focus on their A material, doing about 12 to 15 minutes. And the other thing, because it becomes like a magic variety show, if there's one act that isn't your cup of tea, in another 10 or 12 minutes, there's going to be a different act, and then a different act. We also try to incorporate the acts into each other, which we personally have a lot of fun joining each other on stage. So that's sort of how we pick the acts for the show.
Rob, next time we're over in Vegas and you got a late night, we're going to take you over to Late Night Magic at the
I can't wait.
They're just going to love this. So let me say this to you, Rob, and then move forward. So to give you a little bit trajectory on Doug, I mean, he's been on TV shows. He's been on so many different programs. He's an award-accomplished magician. He's been around for a long time. And now this guy's really in his mark. He performs with Murray every week at the Tropicana. Now he's got his own show going on. What is it about longevity, Rob, that in your opinion, leads to a better business person, a better success over time?
Great question, Chris. Thank you for that. And Doug, I think my question would be, well, from my own experience, longevity means you learn what not to do, right? And that's my own experience, and I've learned from my mistakes. And at some point, you get on an accelerant because you really are able to get into your creativeness in a way that you know, you're not worrying about film time. You're more focused on like the highest best use, right? And to be able to do that, you need relationship capital, which requires great influence, which requires great trust, which requires time, TIME, things I must earn. And as all that stuff is coming together, and I'm assuming this has been there since, you know, you came out after 2001, my question is, how do you identify somebody and then they eventually pass your test that you want to jump into business with, that you would even invite them into your living room? Because I'm sure a lot of times you come across people that it may look good right away or it may feel good, but upon further review, you realize that might not be a fit. Do you have a process mastery to your influence mastery on how to keep building out your business and to be able to move further along like you've been successfully the way Chris has just described to me?
Well, I think you hit on a couple of points. I tell people there's a lot of times I learn more from somebody what not to do than what to do. I also tell people, as you evolve in the business and as you become more experienced, if after my show somebody comes up to me and gives me 10 ideas, my experience for years being in the business, I can pick out the one idea that's a gem. I can identify the 2 ideas that are really good, the 2 ideas that are okay, and the rest that are bad. Where someone who is newer to the business might go, oh, well, that's a good idea, and it's not the best idea.
Yeah.
So it's about weeding out a process. Also, it's cliche, and I think Sammy Davis Jr. said it. Show business, the word business is actually twice as long as the word show. And I think a lot of times people forget it is a business, and it's about putting butts in the seats and selling tickets. So yes, the fun part for me is actually being on stage when I can not answer emails and not answer phone calls, and I can put my phone away and actually be performing in the show. But it is about the constant grind behind the scenes. You know, I do all the graphic design work on our social media page. So it's constantly coming up with graphics, constantly visiting ticket brokers, constantly figuring out how can we get people to come see the show. The fun part is actually performing, but it is actually a business. So you have to know how to do the stuff behind the scenes.
And I have, Chris, if it's okay, follow up question.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Because I understand that that's your work. When you're describing everything, you're working in the business, right? And then there's something to be said about being on the business.
Right.
Is there ways to replace yourself from all those things that you just described where you could just show up and perform and somebody else is talking to the ticket broker and somebody else is answering the emails? Is that an evolutionary spot for you?
I think it's something where I think money can obviously help with that. If you're in a financial position where you can hire people. But what I've learned over time is because I was the creator and I'm the producer of Late Night Magic, no one's going to have the passion that I do.
Yeah.
And no one's going to be able to answer every question like I will. So yes, I can find somebody who's smart and who can visit a ticket broker. And if the ticket broker has a question, they might say, oh, you know what? I don't know the answer. Let me give Doug a call or let me send him an email. But part of it is because it is a passion project of mine and I really enjoy doing it. It's when I can be the one interacting with the people, I feel like I'm the best salesperson for the job.
Yeah. Yeah. Understood. I appreciate that clarity.
Oh, no problem.
Doug, just to sum it up, so people know, he is the producer, he is the host, and he stars in Late Night Magic as well at 10 p.m. Monday, Thursday, and Saturday at the Orleans Hotel Casino at the venue. So let me just ask you, Doug, you know, everyone's got their talents. I feel like for you, it has always been card tricks. So tell me about your sleight of hand. Tell me about how long it has taken to master some of these card tricks.
I spent a lot of time in my room by myself without a girlfriend, so I had a lot of time to practice. A lot of time to practice. For me, it's something where I think it's a very pure form of magic. The sleight of hand that I do with playing cards are actually with real playing cards from the casino. So the cards I use in my show are from the casino floor. So in order for them not to go back on the casino floor, people to use them to cheat, they actually cut the corners. So the corners are cut so that if someone were to bring out one of those cards when they were playing poker or blackjack, the dealer would know. So for me, when I say it's a real form of magic, there's no actual trickery with the playing cards. There's no gimmick. The skill and the magic is what I'm doing with the playing cards. And I try to liken it a lot of times so people can understand to a dancer, where a dancer won't just show up at a gig and then just perform. The dancer gets there early. They walk the stage. They have to stretch. They have to get limber. They get into costume. They warm up. The same thing I do as well. Every day I spend about 30 minutes to an hour doing finger exercises, taking the playing cards. What I call is giving the playing cards memory. So I actually go through my routine with the playing cards I'm going to use in that show tonight, because there's certain points in the show where I'm bending the cards a certain way. So if I do it 2 or 3 times before the show, the cards have that memory. So when I bend the card a certain way, it's more prone to being bent as opposed to doing it the first time.
Huh.
So as a performer, I try to make it look as easy and effortless as possible. I often say when you watch a musician, if someone's playing the violin and they're playing a very difficult piece, they can focus on the instrument. So you're playing and you're looking and you're sweating and you're looking at the instrument. As a magician, it's the complete opposite. The harder it is for me to do something, the more relaxed and easy I have to make it look. I mean, could you imagine if I was producing cards and I was like stressed? It would look weird, as opposed to it should look natural and it should look like real magic.
Just one follow-up, and then we'll throw you back to Rob. You know, you're a very humble guy, but I mean, anybody who gets David Copperfield to show up to their new show in Vegas, that's quite an accomplishment, because anybody who knows David's schedule at the MGM Grand, I mean, he does 3 shows a day sometimes. So what is it like just to have all of the connections in the magic community, and just you're an award-winning magician, you've accomplished so many things, but you're just such a humble guy.
Well, I appreciate that. But we were thrilled to have David come to the show. He came 3 times when we had the show at the previous place we had the show. But David wanted to come to the show, and because the show's at 10, where it used to be at 11, he's like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do my 2 shows, because his second show is at 9:30. He's like, is there any way you can do one show on one of your show days a little bit later? And I told his executive producer, Chris Kenner, I said, you know what? Let's just pick a day where we don't have a show, and we'll do a private show for you and your cast and crew. So we had other performers in town like Tapeface show up. But it was a real honor to have David, who I grew up watching every year, his TV special. And even though he doesn't like to be acknowledged in the audience, this last time he came, I made a point to say, you know, everyone, you're here and we're doing the show because, you know, in my opinion, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, David Copperfield, wanted to see this show. And he stood up and he took a picture with us after the show. So as someone being my magic hero to come to the show, it was really a great honor.
Rob?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible that he came to your show. It says a lot about you, obviously. And brilliantly enough, you did give him a shout out and got that edification, which I think is awesome. And I think that whatever you've done and whatever, you know, where we are in this moment is a collection of our thoughts over the last 5 or 10 years. So there must be something that you're bringing to the table that's awesome. I want to share one quick caveat. I want to deviate for a second and acknowledge Chris.
Sure.
Chris was with me in 2012 in my office in New Jersey, and to see him 11 years later, the way he's rocking out in Vegas and all the relationships that he's created is incredible. Chris, major shout out to you, brother.
Well, let me piggyback on that. When Chris talked about being humble, you know, Chris is very soft spoken. Chris is very not in your face, and it's amazing how I've known Chris and I've been able to see his brand grow over the last 10 plus years, and to see him interviewing someone like Mark Davis from the Raiders, it's incredible to see this guy who was trying to get people to be on his show and interview, and now people are contacting him.
Yes.
So I think that's a huge accomplishment.
The mighty Andak, as Jay Bilstein calls him.
I'm grateful and I'm honored for both of those compliments. And Doug, just to let you know where Rob was 10 years ago and where he is now, it's incredible. The amount of volume, the amount of things, the amount of relationships, the amount of businesses, the amount of things he does for people in the state of New Jersey and beyond. It's incredible as well. Rob, why don't you talk a little bit about what you've been up to lately?
I will in a sec. Doug, real quick.
Yes.
And I'll tell you about myself. What age was it when you decided that magic was your way, was going to be in your future?
It's hard to put a number on it. I did my first show when I was 4 years old for my pre-kindergarten class. I performed with my older brother and my father. I was wearing a black plastic derby, a green turtleneck shirt, and brown corduroy pants.
Yeah.
And the trick that I rehearsed for a week was I had a red and green silk that were tied together, and I passed it through my hands 3 times. And on the 3rd time, it turned to a red and blue silk. I bowed. I got no reaction, and I ran over and started crying.
Okay.
So, so for me, magic was never to start as a career. Growing up, my father was general counsel for the New York State Bankers Association in New York.
Wow.
So we spent a lot of time working in the city. Wow. And my mom stopped working to raise my brother and I. When my mom was younger, she played tennis professionally.
Whoa.
So she was very athletic. She helped us with our schoolwork. She took care of us. And when we were young, my mother said to my dad, it would be great if you had an activity that was something you can just do with the boys. So my dad thought about it, not being an athlete, which I think is usually the first thing you go to. My dad remembered when he was younger, he went to a YMCA camp, and one of the counselors did magic tricks. Not a professional magician, just did it for fun and as a hobby. So my dad thought, oh, that might be something fun to do with the boys. So when we started doing magic, it wasn't to make money or for a career. It was, it's my grandmother's birthday, we would do a 15-minute show. Oh, it's Christmas, we're in front of the relatives, we'll do a 15-minute show. And then one day, our neighbors said to my mother, oh, we heard the boys do magic. Could they come over and do a show for our son for his birthday? How much would that cost? At the time, my mom's like, $35. So for my brother and I, it was something that we did all through school. And then as we got into junior high and high school, that's what we did for fun, but it's also how we made money. So to date myself, when my friends had a paper route or bagged groceries at the grocery store to make money, my brother and I were doing shows. But it's amazing how many things I learned from my mother and father in terms of, you know, you got to clean your fingernails. You're doing a show for a group of 7-year-olds, but you have to have 1 or 2 tricks that's catered to the adults because they're the one that's paying you. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So I learned a lot of business things indirectly. Not at the time, I didn't realize I was learning it, but my dad and my mom were planting the seeds. So it's a lot of things that I still carry today. But after college, I went to the University of Pennsylvania in the Wharton Business School, where they didn't teach a lot of magic. Ironically, after that, I met, at the time, a friend of mine who became my business partner. And we moved to California after, and we put together an act. We performed at the Magic Castle, toured around the world with a big magic illusion show, and it became a passion. You know, my parents said, before you start a job, you know, my major was marketing and advertising. Before you start a job and do it for 3 years, stop, and then try to do the magic thing. And then if it doesn't work out, then you have to start at the ground floor again and then work your way up. Why don't you give it a shot? So I have to be thankful that my parents were always very supportive. And I tell people, you know, I'm not a millionaire. I'm not super rich, but I feel like I'm one of the few people who actually enjoys what they do for a living. You know, I have friends who graduated college who are investment bankers. They work for Goldman Sachs, and they make really great money. They work really long hours. And after they come to Vegas and see my show, they're like, oh, I wish I could just give up my job and move to the Bahamas and open a daiquiri bar on the beach. And as long as I made enough money just to survive, I'd be happy. Yeah. And I feel like I've been very fortunate because I've been happy to do what I do for a living all my life. Yep. So for me, it's not about the financial reward. It's about being happy and doing what I love to do.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Chris, thank you for that journey, Doug. I think about financial freedom, which really is to do what you want, when you want, how you want, with who you want, without any money or time constraints, as long as you have more money at the end of the month and you're not running out of money, right? So it also sounds like to me you're living in the world of abundance, and abundance isn't necessarily monetary, but it's fulfillment, right? And that's what that beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that so much.
But as you know, and I'm sure you deal with it all the time, there's a lot of people who relate happiness to financial success.
It's not true.
Right. But there's a lot of people who, unfortunately, in the world we live in, it's, I have to have that Louis Vuitton purse.
Because they thought
have a certain car, where I look at it as, I've always had a Toyota Camry. For me, the car gets me from point A to point B. I've never been a car guy, but to me, I can't imagine spending $200,000 on a car. I'd rather get a rental property that can make me money in the future.
Yep.
But there's so many people in our world where it's about, especially people that are younger on the way up, it's about status and image, where as you get older, you realize that's not what's important.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Dude, unbelievable journey. I love the education is incredible. The family value is incredible. The learning experience is incredible, and
with the education, it's ironic. I tell people, they're like, well, do you use your education? And I said, yeah, there's a lot of stuff I learned in terms of marketing and advertising.
Yep.
I've also realized when I meet a casino executive, a president, a vice president, a head of marketing, and they found out I went to the University of Pennsylvania and the Wharton Business School, they look at me differently. The first thing they say is, oh, I went to Brown. Oh, I went to Yale. Oh, I went to Stanford. And they realize I made a choice to be an entertainer, where a lot of my friends, ironically, are born into it. You know, they might be fourth generation Russian circus performer where they weren't given an option. Their grandfather or grandmother performed in the circus. Their parents performed in the circus. They were born into the circus. So they don't know any different. For me, I was very fortunate going to a very good school and having parents that are very supportive. I was given the option, if you want to try to pursue this, it's going to be difficult, but give it a shot, where a lot of times, you know, circus performers are born into it.
Yeah, I suspect when you meet people for the first time, they don't see you coming.
Not at all. Not at all.
And that's a powerful, in any kind of negotiation or at least getting people's attention, that's a powerful move. Well,
they also don't realize the depth. You know, a lot of times, I know years ago there was a list came out of ranking, you know, different entertainment categories, and I think magicians was listed under dog acts. So a lot of times people think magician and they think clown or birthday party magician.
Yep.
And you don't understand the amount of work and the amount of studying I've had to do of the art. You know, in my buddy Murray's show, I play a disgruntled stagehand and I don't speak. So my character is completely silent. So I spent a lot of time studying Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton and Fatty Arbuckle and the Keystone Cops, because I realized I have to communicate to the audience without speaking. So in that show, my facial expressions are over exaggerated.
Yep.
And it's amazing how, because I'm taking away one of your senses, me speaking, I find people pay attention more, because if they were to look away and look back, they're going to miss something. You know, it's not like if I'm talking right now and I said, oh, I have this thing in my hand, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thing. If you look away, you still kind of know what's happening because I'm speaking. As opposed to if I'm just holding it and you look away and then you look back and it's not there, you don't know what happened because I wasn't speaking.
Yeah.
So, but everything, you know, watching Chaplin, reading his autobiography, in terms of like choosing his costume, choosing his character, there's a lot that went into it. You know, he just didn't develop. You know, a lot of people think he played the tramp his whole career, and that was not the only character he did. You know, I loved watching the movie Chaplin with Robert Downey Jr., and they have this scene where he goes into this prop warehouse and he picks all these different things, tries on different outfits. And when I read the autobiography, his costume came about because they were filming on the lot and it started raining, and they had this one communal area. So they go in and people are taking off their jacket or their pants because they're soaked, and they're hanging it up. And Chaplin at the time was very known for being very, very cheap. So a lot of the people there were gambling. They were playing cards for money. And it's raining out. It's raining out. Chaplin's getting very anxious. And Laurel and Hardy were there. So he walks over to Stan Laurel's jacket, and he puts his jacket on. And the jacket's a little tight. It's a little small. And then he walks over and he sees Fatty Arbuckle's pants are hanging. And he looks and he's like, huh. And he puts on the pants, and the pants are big and they're a little bit baggy. And that was actually the start of how he put together the costume for the tramp. So as you know, in your business, a lot of times it's trial and error. Sometimes we get lucky.
Yep.
And with our knowledge, you get it right the first time. But a lot of times, as you know, it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 tries to get it exactly right.
Yes, amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. And Chris, I'm cool in the gang here. Doug, I appreciate all the time. I'd love to have another follow-up at some point, Chris. But
absolutely.
Yeah, we will. You know what's so funny, Rob, is I was just with Cool in the Gang on a Saturday night at the Westgate, actually.
Love Cool in the Gang.
The Lefty show. Yeah.
Love
so great. Such great performers. Have you ever seen Earth, Wind, and Fire?
No, but I love them too.
Oh, they're amazing live.
I just love,
That horn section is just incredible.
Yeah. Awesome.
We literally had that, and then we went right over to Lefty's show right afterwards. It was an amazing Saturday night. In closing, Doug, tell us Late Night Magic, where it is, why people should come, the times, how do they get there, why it's different than anything in Vegas.
So Late Night Magic is Thursday, Saturday, Monday at 10 p.m. There's a small theater. It's about 85 people. It's a very intimate cabaret, very like European style. It's a place called The Venue inside the Orleans. For everyone that's local or comes to town and rents a car, free parking, which is very rare now in Vegas. So free parking at the Orleans. It's very easy to park, walk in, see the show. As we talked about earlier before we started doing the show, Chris, we have 5 magicians in the show. Sometimes a magician doesn't have an hour worth of material, but they got a great 10 minutes. They have something really unique and different. And that's what we've put together with this show. The main cast includes John Shaw, who's the freak show master. We have the Shocker, who combines his love of wrestling and magic. We have Bizarro, who's the optical illusionist. All the magic he performs in the show, he creates. And then we have Holly England, the badass witch, who does some really unique stuff and brings a sexier side and a softer side to the show. So if you're looking for something different to do, and you're looking for a show at 10 p.m., maybe you have later dinner plans, our show is the perfect show for that.
Yeah, when I'm out there again, Chris, I'm definitely coming.
Anytime you like.
We're taking them. By the way,
we're going to charge you double, Rob, because you make a lot of money, but we're going to love to have you there.
As long as we get to shoot a video.
Yes.
Yeah, we will.
Absolutely.
We'll shoot a video afterwards with the cast. Very quickly, Robin, let me just mention one last thing, too. We didn't get into as much. Besides a magic show, Rob, it is a freaking great comedy show as well. There's a lot of comedy in it as well.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of laughs along the way.
Especially when the Shocker was doing his bit, I said, it's good to see someone like Chris who's seen 1,000 shows, doubled over in the front row, laughing hysterically. And I tell this to people too. I go, what I love about comedy and laughter is real. It is a knee-jerk reaction. You see something funny, you laugh. As opposed to when you clap, you have to tell your brain, that was good, let me show my appreciation. So when I do a trick and I make a card disappear, you have to go, oh, that was good, let me show appreciation. If I tell a funny joke, you just laugh.
I love those distinctions, by the way.
An immediate reaction.
I love those distinctions. I love that. That's like, those are like little micro distinctions, and it's the difference between success and failure. I love that. That's amazing.
And as I told Chris, you know, we interact with a lot of people in the casino business and a lot of the ticket brokers.
Sure do.
And a couple of ticket brokers said to us, you know, people are really looking for something funny and they want to have fun and laugh. So this newest incarnation of the show has a lot more comedy infused, and the feedback's been really, really positive.
Amazing.
And keep in mind, our show is 18 and over. Chris can attest. We say a lot of adult and a lot of dirty things. So if you like dirty humor, you're going to love it.
Chris, you know me.
Yep. Late Night Magic, 10 p.m. Monday, Thursdays, and Saturdays at the Orleans Hotel and Casino. Doug, Lefty, Leferovich, thank you so much for joining us on CYInterview. Rob Gill, thank you so much for joining us on CYInterview. Thank you guys for being on today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for watching today's CYInterview segment from Las Vegas. Please hit the like button and please hit the subscribe button to be updated on all future CYInterview content from Las Vegas and beyond.